Commander Velthera stood before the massive holographic display in the observation chamber, her violet eyes scanning the primitive blue world spinning slowly below. The Kethmori Empire had monitored countless worlds like this one across the galaxy, and Earth appeared no different from the thousands of others they watched with casual interest. Another metal object launched into orbit, reported her subordinate from his station, his voice carrying the bored tone that came with routine. Surveillance duty. The inhabitants call it a satellite. Primitive communication technology, as expected. Velthera nodded dismissively without turning from the display. Standard development pattern? Log it in the files and continue monitoring. She had seen this same progression hundreds of times before. First came basic tools, then metals, then crude spacecraft, and finally surrender when the Empire decided it was time to harvest another world. But something nagged at her as she watched. The small metal sphere drift through the darkness of space. The humans below had achieved this milestone faster than their computer models predicted. Much faster. She dismissed the thought quickly. Statistical anomalies were common among developing species. Some moved fast, others slow. It meant nothing in the grand scheme of things. The observation post had been watching Earth for nearly 50 years now. Ever since the humans had split the atom and caught the Empire's attention, nuclear weapons always triggered automatic surveillance protocols. Species destroyed themselves within decades of discovering such power. The ones that survived usually stagnated for centuries before becoming useful to the Empire. On Earth, thousands of miles below the hidden observation post, Dr. Hyunwoo Kim stared at the night sky through his telescope. His weathered hands adjusted. The focus with practiced ease, the same movements he had made every clear night for the past 6 months. The small observatory sat on a hill outside Seoul, far from the city lights that would interfere with his observations. For months, he had been tracking unusual objects that appeared and disappeared near the outer planets. 8 objects that moved in ways that defied everything he knew about orbital mechanics. Objects that didn't match any known celestial phenomena in the astronomy textbooks he had studied for 40 years. Professor Kim called his research assistant, Min-soo, from across the small room. The photographs from last night developed clearly. You should see this. Kim reluctantly left his telescope and walked to the developing table where Min-soo had spread out several black and white photographs. Each image showed the same thing, a dark shape moving against the star field, too regular. To be natural, too large, to be any satellite built by human hands. How many sightings now? Kim asked, studying the photographs with growing concern. 17 confirmed observations over the past 3 months, Min-soo replied, pointing to his careful notes. All following similar patterns. They appear, hover, for exactly 47 minutes, then vanish. Kim rubbed his tired eyes. He had been an astronomer for most of his adult life, had published papers on planetary motion and stellar classification. He believed in facts, in evidence, in the scientific method. But the evidence before him pointed to only one impossible conclusion. You're being watched, he whispered, the words feeling strange in his mouth. Above them, Commander Velthara reviewed the surveillance reports from the past month. Human technology continued to advance at an alarming rate. They had developed computers, begun exploring space, and established global communication networks. All normal developments, but happening far too quickly. Commander, her tactical officer, approached cautiously. The humans have launched another probe. This one is different. It's heading toward the outer system. Velthara turned from the display, her expression growing serious. Show me. The holographic image shifted to show a small spacecraft moving steadily away from Earth. It looked primitive compared to Kethmori technology, but something about its design bothered her. It was too efficient, too well planned for such a young species. Where is it going? She asked. The current trajectory suggests Jupiter, but Commander, there's something else. We detected unusual energy signatures during launch. The humans may be using technology we don't recognize. For the first time in her career, Velthara felt a small chill of uncertainty. The Empire had rules about intervention. They only acted when a species became a threat or when they were ready for harvesting. Earth was still decades away from either category, according to all projections. Back on Earth, Dr. Kim made a decision that would change everything. He picked up his telephone and dialed a number he had memorized but never used. The phone rang. Twice before a voice answered. Defense Ministry, Colonel Park speaking. Colonel, this is Dr. Kim at Seoul Observatory. I need to speak with someone about national security. I believe we have a situation that requires immediate attention. There was a pause on the other end of the line. What kind of situation, Doctor? Kim looked at the photographs spread across his table, then up at the night sky where invisible watchers continued their surveillance. The kind that suggests we are not alone in the universe, and we may not have much time to prepare. The conversation that followed would set in motion events that neither the Kethmori Empire nor humanity could have predicted. The Watchers had been watching, but they had not been the only ones paying attention. 50 years had passed since the first surveillance reports reached the Kethmori High Command. And now the Council gathered in their massive crystalline chambers to review what they called the Earth situation. The chamber walls sparkled with embedded gems that recorded every word spoken. Every decision made by the Empire's ruling body. Admiral Valthera stood before the assembled leaders, her violet skin now marked with the silver lines that showed. Her advanced age and high rank, she had spent decades watching the blue world, and what she had seen troubled her deeply. The holographic display behind her showed Earth spinning slowly, its surface now covered with bright lights that had not existed when surveillance began. The humans have exceeded all development projections by significant margins, she reported, her voice carrying a note of concern that made several council members shift uncomfortably. They have achieved nuclear fission, primitive space travel, and global communication networks in a fraction of the expected time frame. Their progress follows no known pattern. Council Elder Morkin, ancient, even by Kethmori standards, waved one of his forearms dismissively. His golden eyes showed the boredom of someone who had seen 1,000 worlds rise and fall, a statistical outlier, nothing more. Many species show brief periods of rapid advancement before stabilizing or destroying themselves. Continue observation and prepare standard harvesting protocols for implementation in 50 years. Other council members nodded in agreement. The Empire had conquered over 10,000 worlds using the same patient approach. Watch, wait, then strike when the target was ripe. It had never failed before. But Elder Valthara pressed on. Their advancement shows no signs of slowing. In fact, it appears to be accelerating. You may need to consider earlier intervention. Elder Morkin's expression darkened. Admiral, you forget your place. The Council has spoken. Turn to your post and continue surveillance. That is all. Valthara's concerns proved more justified than anyone in the crystalline chamber could have imagined. Far below, on the surface of Earth, events were already in motion that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. General Ginho Lee stood in a bunker, buried deep beneath the Korean peninsula, surrounded by screens showing satellite feeds and radar data from around the world. The underground facility stretched for miles in every direction. Hidden from orbital observation by layers of rock and sophisticated camouflage technology, the secret project had been running for 3 decades, hidden not only from the world's governments, but from the Watchers high above. Sir, called out Lieutenant Nari Choi from her station across the command center. Her fingers moved quickly across a control panel that would have looked alien to most humans on the surface. We have successfully reverse-engineered another component from the recovered probe. The power source is completely unlike anything in our physics textbooks. Jinho nodded grimly, his weathered face showing the strain of carrying humanity's greatest secret. 3 decades ago, a damaged alien probe had crashed in the Pacific Ocean. Most of the world never knew it existed, but a small group of scientists and military leaders had studied every piece of the wreckage, learning things that should have taken centuries to discover. How many nations are now part of the Shadow Protocol? He asked, turning to face the global situation map that dominated. One wall of the command center? 17 major powers, sir. All working toward the same goal. The Russians completed their facility in Siberia last month. The Americans have 3 operational sites. Even the smaller nations have contributed what they can. Lieutenant Choi paused, checking her notes. Every major government now has at least one team working on the project. They all understand what we are facing. Jinho studied the map, where red dots marked secret facilities on every continent. Each dot represented thousands of people working, in absolute secrecy, preparing for a war that most of humanity did not know was coming. Engineers, scientists, soldiers, and civilians, all united by the knowledge that Earth was being watched by something far more advanced than themselves. Above, them invisible to human eyes, Kethmori sensors detected increased electromagnetic activity across the planet. The Empire's monitoring systems recorded the data automatically. The analysis programs attributed it to normal technological development. They failed to notice the subtle patterns that indicated coordinated global preparation. The alien computers had been programmed to recognize certain types of threats, but they had never encountered a species that could reverse engineer advanced technology so quickly. They had never seen a world where 17 different nations could work together in perfect secrecy for decades. The Kethmori Empire's greatest strength had always been their ability to predict how primitive species would behave. Dr. Yoon-sik Park, one of the lead scientists on the project, approached General Lee with a tablet showing the latest test results. General, we have achieved successful fusion using their technology. The power output is beyond anything we dreamed possible in the weapons applications, Lee asked quietly. Operational within 6 months, sir. We will have the ability to defend ourselves. High above. Admiral Velthara continued her surveillance duties, unaware that the primitive species she watched had already begun to surpass Kethmori technology in several key areas. The Empire's greatest mistake was not underestimating human intelligence, but underestimating human determination when faced with an existential threat. The Watchers had been watching. They had not been watching carefully enough. The first human faster-than-light vessel launched from a hidden facility built into an artificial island in the deepest part of the Pacific Ocean. The launch site had been constructed over 15 years, disguised as an underwater research station, while teams of engineers worked around the clock to build. Humanity's first interstellar ship, Captain Donghain Park, stood on the bridge of the ship they had named Defiance, watching as Earth grew smaller behind them. The vessel was unlike anything humanity had ever built before. Its hybrid engines combined human engineering with alien technology recovered from crashed probes, creating something that neither species could have achieved alone. Stealth systems online, Captain, reported navigator the Jin Kim from her station. Her fingers moved across controls that had been designed based on alien blueprints, but modified with human improvements. We are following the mapped patrol routes, exactly as planned. Captain Park nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. For 70 years, humans had been tracking Kethmori surveillance patterns with growing sophistication. What had started as simple telescope observations had evolved into a complex network of hidden sensors and spy satellites humanity had built. A detailed picture of the Empire's structure, mapping patrol routes, communication frequencies, and defensive positions across dozens of star systems. The bridge crew worked in focused silence, each person knowing that the success of their mission would determine whether humanity lived free or died in chains. Engineer Soman Lee monitored the hybrid engines, watching power levels that would have been impossible with human technology alone. Communications officer Jun Wuchang tracked alien radio signals using equipment that could decode Kethmori transmissions in real time. Contact in 30 minutes, Navigator Kim announced. First target is the monitoring station in the Proxima system. Captain Park studied the tactical display showing their destination. The Kethmori outpost was small, with only a few dozen alien personnel, but it represented something much larger. It was a symbol of the Empire's arrogance, their belief that primitive species would never pose a threat to their watchers. Meanwhile, millions of miles away, Admiral Velthara sat in her command center aboard the primary surveillance station. She had spent her entire career watching primitive worlds, and the routine had become as predictable as the movement of stars. Today should have been no different from any other day in her long service to the Empire. Then, her monitoring stations. Alarms began to blare with an urgency she had never heard before. "How is this possible?" she demanded, staring at the displays that showed impossible readings. "Our projections showed they were centuries away from faster-than-light capability." Her tactical officer, a young Kethmori named Zekhan, trembled. With fear as he reported the impossible, "Admiral, we are detecting multiple human vessels throughout the sector. They are not just in one location. They are everywhere. The readings suggest they have been establishing colonies for years without our knowledge." Valthera felt her blood turn cold. In all her years of service, she had never seen anything like this. Primitive species simply did not develop this quickly. They did not coordinate across their entire planet. They did not build fleets of starships in secret and launch them simultaneously across multiple star systems. "Impossible," she whispered, but the evidence was right in front of her eyes. The humans had not just achieved faster-than-light travel, they had mastered it well enough to build an entire fleet and deploy it with military precision. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Park watched as they approached the first Kethmori outpost. The alien station looked exactly as their intelligence reports had described it. A small, elegant structure designed more for observation than defense. Kethmori had never needed to defend their monitoring posts because no primitive species had ever threatened them. "Weapons systems ready, Captain," reported Tactical Officer High Ingenue. The weapons were another hybrid creation, combining human understanding of warfare with alien energy technology. The result was devastating firepower that could punch through. "Kethmori shields like paper, begin Phase 1, Captain Park ordered, his voice carrying across the bridge with calm authority. "Let them know we are no longer their entertainment." The Defiance opened fire with weapons that should not have existed. The Kethmori outpost's shields collapsed instantly, and the station itself disappeared in a brilliant flash of light. The destruction was so complete that it took several seconds for the monitoring equipment to register that the target had been completely eliminated. The outpost's destruction sent shockwaves through the Empire faster than the speed of light. Emergency communications flooded. Kethmori command centers across the galaxy as other monitoring stations reported similar attacks. In less than an hour, 12 outposts had been destroyed by ships that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. Admiral Valthara watched in horror as reports flooded in from across the Empire. The humans had not just built one ship, they'd built dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Each vessel was attacking with precision and coordination that spoke of careful planning and superior intelligence. For the first time in millennia, the Kethmori faced an enemy they had completely underestimated. The primitive species they had watched with casual interest had become something far more dangerous than anyone in the Empire had imagined. The Watchers had become the hunted, and they were not prepared for what was coming next. The Kethmori war fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their massive ships blotting out the stars as they approached the blue world they had watched for over a century. Admiral Valthara commanded the invasion force from her flagship, a vessel so large it could house entire cities within its hull. She expected to find a defenseless world full of primitive beings ready for conquest. Instead, she found something that made her blood run cold. Earth's surface was empty. The cities that had glowed with lights for decades were now dark and silent. The electromagnetic signatures that had buzzed with activity for years had vanished overnight. The planet looked dead, abandoned, as if its entire population had simply disappeared. "Where are they?" she demanded, staring at the tactical displays that showed no signs of life on the world below. Her answer came in the form of weapons, fire from hidden installations across the planet's surface. The first barrage caught the Kethmori fleet completely off guard. Energy beams more powerful than anything in their databases tore through their outer ships, destroying 3 vessels in the opening seconds of combat. Then the real surprise began. Human ships emerged from asteroid fields where they had been hiding for months. The vessels seemed to materialize from empty space, their hulls gleaming with hybrid technology that combined the best of both civilizations. They moved with a speed and precision that defied every assumption the Kethmori had made. About primitive species, Admiral Seo Jin Han commanded the Earth's defense fleet from his flagship, the Vengeance. The massive vessel had been built in secret orbital shipyards hidden behind the moon where Kethmori's sensors could not detect the construction. Every bolt, every circuit, every weapon had been designed with one purpose: to destroy the aliens who thought they owned the galaxy. "All units, this is what we have trained for," Han announced over the fleet communication system. "Show 'em what happens when you threaten our home." The battle was swift and decisive, but not in the way that Kethmori had expected. Their ships, designed for subjugating primitive worlds with overwhelming firepower, found themselves outmaneuvered by human vessels that had been specifically designed to counter their technology. "Every weakness in Kethmori design had been identified and exploited, Captain." Myung Beek led her squadron through the enemy formation, her pilots executing maneuvers that should have been impossible for ships of their size. The human vessels twisted and turned like living things, their hybrid engines allowing them to change direction in ways that violated everything the aliens knew about physics. "Their shields are down," she called out over the radio as her weapons found their mark. "Press the attack. Do not let them recover." Her squadron dove toward the damaged Kethmori vessel like wolves attacking wounded prey. The alien ship, massive and powerful, found itself unable to track targets that moved with such unpredictable speed. Human weapons, powered by reverse-engineered alien technology, but improved with human innovation, tore through armor that had protected the Empire's fleets for centuries. On the Kethmori flagship, Admiral Velthara watched her fleet burn around her. The bridge displays showed ship after ship disappearing from her tactical screen, destroyed by weapons that should not have existed. Centuries of military doctrine crumbled as human weapons tore through their defenses like they were made of paper.
Ow.
"Can they be so advanced?" she whispered, watching a human ship destroy one of her heavy cruisers with a single focused beam of energy. They were primitive. They were supposed to be primitive. Her tactical officer, his face pale with terror, reported the impossible. "Admiral, we have lost 60% of the fleet.
Ow.
The human ships are using technology we do not recognize. Our weapons cannot penetrate their shields." Velthara stared at the displays, unable to believe what she was seeing. The species they had dismissed as primitive had become something far more dangerous than anyone in the Empire had imagined. They had not just stolen alien technology. They had improved it, made it better, turned it into something that could defeat the very civilization that had created it. The battle raged for 3 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. Human ships, smaller and more agile than their opponents, swarmed around the massive Kethmori vessels like insects around giants. But these insects had stings that could kill, and they used them with devastating effect. General Won-ho Kim, commanding Earth's ground forces, watched the sky battle from his command center buried deep beneath the Korean mountains. The facility had been built to coordinate the defense of Earth, but it had always been intended for something much larger than a single battle. "Begin Phase 2, he ordered, his voice carrying across the command center with calm authority. "Launch the liberation fleets. Cross the Earth. Hidden launch facilities opened like flowers blooming in fast motion. Ships that had been waiting in concealed underground hangars rose into the sky, their engines glowing with alien fire. But these vessels were not heading toward the battle above Earth. They were heading toward the stars, toward the worlds that the Kethmori Empire had enslaved for thousands of years. The liberation fleets carried weapons, supplies, and most importantly, hope to species that had been waiting centuries for freedom. The humans had not just learned to defend themselves. They had learned to free others, and they were about to teach the galaxy what that meant. The stars looked different now. Captain Park stood at the window of her ship and watched the alien vessels flying alongside human ones. 6 months ago, these same aliens had been shooting at each other. They worked together to rebuild what war had destroyed. The Kethmori Empire was gone. The proud warriors who once ruled the galaxy now lived in camps, waiting to learn their fate. Some expected death. Others hoped for exile. None expected what humanity actually gave them. Park remembered the day it all ended. She had been on the bridge when the last Kethmori battleship sent its surrender message. The alien captain's voice had been broken, defeated. "We yield," he had said. "Do what you will with us." But humans did something the galaxy had never seen before. They chose. Mercied Admiral Yoon had made the decision that surprised everyone. Instead of destroying the Kethmori, humanity would help them find a new way to live. Instead of taking their place as rulers, humans would help create a system where no one ruled over others. It was not easy work, as the galaxy had known only empire. For hundreds of years, many species did not understand cooperation. They knew only how to serve or how to command. Dr. Lee worked day and night with alien scientists. They built the new Galactic Council together. Every species got a voice. Every world got to choose its own path. The council would solve problems through talk, not war. "It is strange," said Kekstar, a former Kethmori scientist. He worked beside Dr. Lee now, helping to design new technologies for peace instead of war. "My people always believed strength meant making others weak. You humans show us that true strength means making others strong." The hardest part was dealing with the Kethmori themselves. Many of them could not accept their defeat. They had been proud warriors for so long that they did not know how to be anything else. Admiral Valthera was one of these. She had led the invasion of Earth. She expected humans to kill her or lock her away forever. Instead, she found herself working in the refugee camps, helping her own people learn to farm and build instead of fight. "Why do you not hate us?" They stood together watching former enemies work side by side. "We came to destroy your world. We killed your people." Yoon was quiet for a long moment. "Hate is easy," he said finally. "It burns bright and feels good. But it also burns out, leaving only ash. We choose something harder. We choose to build something better." The new galaxy was not perfect. There were still fights. Some species tried to grab power for themselves. Some worlds refused to join the council. Pirates and criminals caused trouble in the empty spaces between stars, but something had changed. The galaxy had hope now. Commander Song watched her mixed. Crew worked together. Humans and aliens shared jokes and stories. They helped each other solve problems. They had become friends, not just allies. "Captain," called out Zethan, the ship's alien engineer. "The new engines are ready. We can jump to the Outer Rim now." The Outer Rim was where the worst problems were. Former slave worlds struggled to govern themselves. Some had fallen into chaos. Others had been taken over by criminals. The Liberation and ships like it carried supplies and help to these forgotten places. "Take us there," Song ordered. "Let's see what we can do." The jump through space was smooth. The new engines, built by human and alien minds working together, were faster and safer than anything the old empire had made. Cooperation created wonders that conquest never could. As they arrived at their destination, Song saw the planet below. It was scarred by war, but green was returning to its surface. Cities were being rebuilt. Children who had been slaves were now free to play and learn. "A signal from the surface," reported the communications officer. "They're asking for medical supplies and teachers." "Send down everything we can spare," Song replied. "And ask who wants to volunteer to stay and help." Half the crew raised their hands, human and alien together. They wanted to help this world heal. This was the new galaxy. Not perfect, but trying. Not ruled by fear, but growing through hope. Age of Empires had ended. The age of cooperation had begun. Captain Park smiled as she watched the supply ships head down to the planet. Tomorrow, they would jump to another world that needed help. And the day after that, another. The work would never end, but it was good work. The stars looked different now. They looked like home to everyone who lived under them.